picking up the pamphlet at the press, purchasing clothes, and driving him to the station to catch the train for Calcutta. He arrived in Calcutta about 2 weeks before the Jalduta's departure. Although he had lived much of his life in the city, he now had nowhere to stay. It was as he had written in his Vrindavan bhajan, I have my wife, sons, daughters, grandson, everything, but I have no money. So they are a fruitless glory. Although in this city he had been so carefully nurtured as a child, those early days were also gone forever. Quote, where have my loving father and mother gone to now? And where are all my elders who were my own folk? Who will give me news of them? Tell me who? All that is left of this family life is a list of names. Haribo. Out of the hundreds of people in Calcutta whom Bhaktivedanta Swami knew, he chose to call on Mr. Sisir Bhattacharya, the flamboyant Kirtan singer he had met a year before at the governor's house in Lucknow. Mr. Bhattacharya was not a relative, not a disciple, nor even a close friend, but he was willing to help. Bhaktivedanta Swami called at his place and informed him that he would be leaving on a cargo ship in a few days. He needed a place to stay, and he would like to give some lectures. One never missed. Mr. Bhattacharya immediately began to arrange a few private meetings at friends' homes, where he would sing and Bhaktivedanta Swami would then speak. Mr. Bhattacharya thought the sadhus living for America should make an important news story. He accompanied Bhaktivedanta Swami to all the newspapers in Calcutta, the Hindustan Standard, the Amrit Bazar Patrika, the Jugantas, the Statesman, and others. Bhaktivedanta Swami had only one photograph, a passport photo, and they made a few copies for the newspaper. Mr. Bhattacharya would try to explain what the Swami was going to do, and the news writer would then listen. But none of them wrote anything. Finally, they visited the Dainik Basumati, a local Bengali daily, which agreed to print a small article with Bhaktivedanta Swami's pictures. Very well. Mr. Bhattacharya continued to assist Bhaktivedanta Swami with his final business and speaking engagements. So all these things Mr. Bhattacharya is explaining in his own way as follows. We just took a hired taxi to this place and that place, and he would go for preaching. I never talked to him during the preaching, but once when I was coming back from the preaching, I said, quote, you said this thing about this, but I tell you it is not this, it is this. I crossed him in something or argued, and he was furious. Whenever we argued and I said, quote, no, I think this is this, unquote, then he was shouting. He was very furious. He said, quote, "You are always saying, I think, I think, I think. What is the importance of what you think? Everything what you think, but it doesn't matter. It matters what Shastra says. You must follow." Then I said, "I must do what I think, what I feel. That is important." Prabhupada says, "No, you should forget this. You should forget your desire. You should change your habit. Better you depend on Shastras. You follow what Shastra wants you to do and do it. I'm not telling you what I think, but I'm repeating what the Shastra says." I was one time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was sharing with me that they surrender their life because they knows that Prabhupada will not make up anything from on his own. He always used to give shastric evidence to support what he says. So this is very wonderful. The day before his departure, Bhaktivedanta Swami traveled to nearby Mayapur to visit the Samadhi of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Haribol. I like that place. On the back of this Samadhi of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj in Mayapur, that is one of my favorite places. I spend a lot of time there to chant the holy name, because right on the back there is a lake there, and they name like Radha Kund and Shyam Kund. And also they have this small hill with the stone that's Giri Govardhan, and it says it's a replica. That place is so serene. You can sit for hours and hours. I think I was there, and the Danivar Swami Maharaj with few disciples came there. So I offered my obeisances and Maharaj spoke. It was very nice. He had only a suitcase, an umbrella, and a supply of dry cereal. He did not know what he would find to eat in America. Perhaps there would be only meat. If so, he was prepared to live on boiled potatoes and a cereal. This determination is required. His main baggage, several trunk of his books, was being handled separately by Scindia Cargo. 203 volume set. The very thought of the books gave him confidence. When the day came for him to leave, he needed that confidence. He was making a momentous break with his previous life, and he was dangerously old and not in strong health. And he was going on an unknown and probably unwelcoming country. To be poor and unknown in India was one thing. Even in these Kali Yuga days, when India's leaders were rejecting Vedic culture and imitating the West, it was still India. It was still the remains of Vedic civilization. He had been able to see millionaires, governors, prime minister, simply by showing up at the doors and waiting. A sannyasi was respected. The Srimad Bhagavatam was respected. But in America, it would be different. He would be no one, a foreigner. And there was no traditions of sadhus, no temples, no free ashrams. But when he thought of the books he was bringing, transcendental knowledge in English, he became confident. When he met someone in America, he would give him a flyer, Srimad Bhagavatam, India's message of peace and goodwill. It was August 13, just a few days before Janmashtami, the appearance day anniversary of Lord Sri Krishna. The next day would be his own 70th birthday. During this last year, he had been in Vrindavan for Janmashtami. Many Vrindavan residents would never live there. They were old and at peace in Vrindavan. Bhaktivedanta Swami was also concerned that he might be die away from Vrindavan. That was why all the Vaishnava sadhus and widows has taken vow not to live even for Mathura. Because to die in Vrindavan was the perfection of life. And the Hindu tradition was that sannyasis should not cross the ocean and go to the land of the Mlechas. But beyond all that was the desire of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And his desire was non-different from that of Lord Sri Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted that the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra would be known in every town and village of the world. Mr. Bhattacharya and Bhaktivedanta Swami took a taxi down to the Calcutta port. Bhaktivedanta Swami was carrying a Bengali copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which he intended to read during the crossing. Somehow, he would be able to cook on board, or if not, he could starve whatever Krishna desired. He checked his essential passenger ticket, passport, visa, P-form, sponsor's address. Finally, it was happening. So Srila Prabhupada is putting in his own words as follows. With what great difficulty I got out of the country, some way or other, by Krishna's grace, I got out so I could spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Otherwise, to remain in India, it was not possible. I wanted to start a movement in India, but I was not at all encouraged. The black cargo ship, small and withered, was moved at dockside. A gangway leading from the dock to the ship's deck. Indian merchant sailors curiously eyed the elderly saffron-dressed sadhu as he spoke last words to his companion, and then left them and walked determinedly toward the boat. For thousands of years, Krishna Bhakti had been known only in India, not outside, except in twisted, faithless report by foreigners. And the only Swamis to have reached America had been non-devotees, Mayavadi impersonalists. But now Krishna was sending Bhaktivedanta Swami as his emissary. Mr. Bhattacharya explained this in his own word as follows. He was alone, a lone fighter. And when he left, there was no one on the shore to bid him goodbye. No friends, no supporter, no disciple, nobody. Even if you call me, I was not a disciple of his. I was a disciple of somebody else. So I was not his follower. But due to shared love, I had very much respect for him. So I was the only person standing on the shore to say him goodbye. No one was with me. I could not know that it was such an important thing. So we finished the volume number 1. I didn't know, I didn't check it, so let me grab the volume number 2. I'll be back in a few minutes. So before we open the volume 2, we all offer our humble obeisances at the desk of Srila Prabhupada, and we are making a prayer that please be merciful to us. Let us imbibe some of the things what you have done in your life. So please be merciful to all of us so we can follow in your footsteps. So with this prayer, we are embarking on volume number 2, Planting the Seed. Lord Chaitanya says that the living entities bound by fruitive activities are wandering throughout the whole universe. And if by some chance or pious activities they get in touch with a bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of Krishna, then they get the seed of devotional service. After getting this seed, if one sow it within his heart and pours water on it by hearing and chanting, the seed grows into a big plant. And there are fruits and flowers which the living entity can enjoy, even in this material world. So this is the benefit of becoming a fixed devotee. So we will read the foreword for the volume 2. The story you are about to read is like many true stories, highly improbable. An elderly Indian Swami comes to New York City in the mid-1960s on a vaguely defined mission, charged by his teacher in India to bring his spiritual message to the West. He arrives in New York with no prior knowledge of America, no base of support, almost no money, and no clear plan of action. He moves about the city somewhat aimlessly, lives for a while in an artist's loft on a Bowery, and finally, with help from a few early followers, rent a storefront building in the area known as East Village, the heart of the 1960s drug and counterculture movement. There he begins to preach an unlikely message of sexual restraint, abstinence from drug, and purity of mind and body, and in behalf of devotion to the Hindu god Krishna. What follows is a remarkable tale of faith, determination, and success beyond anyone's expectation. The present volume gives only the beginning of the story, but it tells us in fascinating detail how the first seed of success were planted in what seemed such unpromising ground. It is a very human story with a very human A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami at the center. Religions are a composite of many factors, some of which are largely collective products, such as social movements, institutions, and systems of belief and practice. The history of religion is often put in terms of these relatively objective factors, so that religious history becomes part of the more general history of various times and places. The story of Bhaktivedanta Swami reminds us forcefully that there are other factors, more personal and elusive, which also shape the history of the world religion. Social and cultural factors make a difference, but so also do individuals, holy men, saints, religious leaders, and their often flawed but faithful followers. The value of this book is the way in which it brings together these two dimensions, social history and individuals, to describe the founding of a major religious movement. The temporal setting of the story is important. The 1960s was a unique period in American history, a time when major changes were taking place in our society. The place is important also, since New York City in general and East Village in particular were on the leading edge of these changes. The author of this biography was very much a part of this time and place as one of the Bhaktivedanta Swami's earliest disciple in New York. From his own recollections, from recordings and writing of the time, and from extensive interviews with other participants, he has put together a series of striking vignettes of the 1960s that have independent historical value. Threading through these scenes, however, and binding the individuals together in collective effort is the dominant figure of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Bhaktivedanta Swami seems curiously out of place in this setting. Born in the late 19th century, he has spent his whole career in India and for many years had lived the life of a celibate Hindu monk. What relevance should he have in the center of American youth culture, where, quote, do your own thing, unquote, was the die for action, and, quote, don't trust anyone over 30, unquote, was the watchword against authority. The answer to this can best be conveyed in the book which follows. Since spiritual power can never be precisely pinned down, this book will not give a complete answer, nor will all of the massive evidence on which it is based. It is to Bhaktivedanta's credit that he believed in keeping nothing secret, and it is to Satswarup's credit that he has presented the events of this critical period as objectively as possible. Seldom before have we had such an intimate and detailed account of a spiritual master, bringing forth a new religious movement, and probably never there been a wealth of contemporary data to back it up. Those of us who are historians of religion will be working this rich vein for years to come. Some who read this book will simply enjoy an absorbing story. Others, perhaps more appropriately, will respond in faith or greater commitment to their own religious quest. Whatever your response, this first published volume of a great religious biography will be a rare treat. Dr. Thomas J. Hopkins, Chairman, Department of Religious Studies, Franklin and Marshall College, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we will start reading the preface now. After the disappearance of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada from this mortal world on November 14, 1977, many of his disciples saw a need for an authorized biography of Srila Prabhupada. The responsibility of commissioning such a work rested with the governing body commission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. At their annual meeting in 1978, the GBC resolved that a biography of Srila Prabhupada should be written and that I would be the author. According to the Vaishnava tradition, if one aspires to write transcendental literature, he must first take permission from his spiritual master and Krishna. A good example of this is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's authorized biography, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, as Krishnadas Kaviraj has explained as follows. In Vrindavan, there were also many other great devotees, all of whom desired to hear the last pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. By their mercy, all these devotees ordered me to write of the last pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of their order only, although I'm shameless, I have attempted to write this Chaitanya Charitamrita. Having received the order of the Vaishnavas, but being anxious within my heart, I went back to the temple of Madan Mohan in Vrindavan to ask his permission also. This transcendental process is further described by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, in his commentary on the Chaitanya Charitamrita as follows. I'll read that one paragraph and then it's time to end our program. To write about the transcendental pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not an ordinary endeavor. Unless one is empowered by the higher authorities or advanced devotees, one cannot write transcendental literature. For all such literature must be above suspicion, or in other words, it must have none of the defects of conditioned souls, namely mistakes, illusion, cheating, and imperfect sense perception. These are the four defects we born with it. The words of Krishna and the disciplic succession that carries the order of Krishna are actually authoritative. One must first become a pure devotee, following the strict regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds daily. And when one thinks he is actually on the Vaishnava platform, he must then take permission from the spiritual master, and that permission must also be confirmed by Krishna from within his heart. Hare Krishna. So I think it's 6:55. Time to close. The devotee has other duties to perform. So before they leave, I would like to offer my humble obeisances at the desk of these wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are very, very kind to take so much austerity despite their household responsibility. They join every single day. So I'm really indebted to you all. And I would like to offer my humble obeisances at the desk of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.